Lifestyles of a leader, that's what you wanna be.
Second Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 says, "For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Good day to you. Welcome to Leader Lifestyles. I'm L. Wayne Smalls, and we're here to empower, enable, and enhance leaders to grow. Welcome to this special edition of Leader Lifestyles. And again, I am Wayne Smalls, and I'm here to share with you today. I want to share some great information that I think will be helpful to all of us. And also, I just want to share some love and some encouragement and some inspiration and hope as we continue to go through this crisis, this pandemic of the Corona-19 virus. Things are really getting worse. It seems things are really serious, and it doesn't appear that it's going to go away anytime soon. So we want to talk about some things that are really going to help us out and help us to remain as safe as possible. And before I go any further, I just want to send a shout out of love to all of our brothers and sisters all around the world, all throughout our country, all throughout our state of North Carolina, and everywhere in between. Also to all of our brothers and sisters down in Red Springs, Laurinburg, Lumberton, Fayetteville, and wherever you are in the world right now. As you hear my voice, I want to tell you that I love you. I care about you. And on behalf of the WIDU family and the We Do Network, we also want to just make sure that you are aware that we are here to provide inspiration and information to give you all the latest updates on what's going on with the COVID-19 virus, as well as everything else that's going on in our communities. And we are going to get through this together. So again, I want to send a shout out of love, inspiration, and also just to give you some updates and some helpful tips on how we can survive this thing together. And we will get through this. We certainly will. And as I read the scripture from 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, this is a scripture that is familiar to many of us. And it talks about God not giving us the spirit of fear. And in times like this, we do tend to get worried. We do tend to get a little fearful because we don't know what's going on. We don't know all of the details, and we get bits and pieces of information. And, you know, when you're going through something unfamiliar, then you do have the tendency of kind of falling into that category of a little bit of angst, a little bit of anxiousness, and just kind of fearful because you really don't know what's going to happen next. And so that's what we want to talk about today as we continue again to go through this ordeal, this crisis. And for me, this is where leadership steps up. I'll say that until everybody gets it. Leadership stands up in a time of crisis. This is the time where we shine. This is the time where we make sure our people are better on the other side of this trouble, this trial, this test. When we get on the other side, we want to make sure that we are stronger for it. We are better for it. We are better prepared for the next crisis when it comes. And I guarantee you that there will be another crisis after this one. And we want to make sure that we are exuding confidence. We are exuding our leadership ability, our ability to ensure the safety of others, and to make sure that we're providing the information that is going to help us individually as well as collectively to get through this. So I want to talk to some of the things that we can do right now. We don't have to wait till tomorrow. We don't have to wait till next week. We can start these things right now. And these are some of the things that I believe, again, that will help us first individually, and then be able to share this information with other people. Those that follow us, they can use these things, and we can all work together. And that is the only way that we're going to get through this pandemic, is by working together. So here we go. The first thing that I want to talk about is the reality of what's going on. We don't want to ignore the facts, and we don't want to ignore the anxiety that people may be feeling right now. When you ignore people's feelings about a crisis, that only makes things worse. So we don't want to ignore people's feelings. We don't want to say, hey, we shouldn't be fearful because of this or because of that. We cannot negate the fact that we're all human. We're all facing something that most of us have not seen before. It's really hard not to be anxious when going through something like this. And so as leaders, we have to remember we cannot ignore people's anxieties, but we can help them get through those anxieties when we begin to share information and we really get to the heart of the matter. And then we have to be empathetic to people's feelings. Every one of us will reach a point to where we hit the fight or flight response to this crisis or any other crisis. We all have our trigger points where we are either in fight or flight, and we're going to choose one. And right now, this is the opportunity for many people to experience this. And the fight, which is anger, or the flight, which is the escape, these are the reactions that keep us from acting on opportunities. Even in a crisis, there are opportunities for us. But when we're so wrapped up in our fears, we're wrapped up in anxiety, we can miss those opportunities. So the leaders are responsible for ensuring that our people don't fall into that category where we're missing those opportunities. And we do that by being empathetic to the way our people feel. We need to bring those feelings out into the open and make people feel safe about expressing their feelings. And the only way to do that is to not be judgmental about how people feel about this or how people feel about that. We can't judge them. We should not judge them. We should make them feel comfortable in knowing that it's okay to be human. It's okay to have feelings. But let's figure out how we're going to deal with these feelings and how we can use this to find those opportunities, even in a time of trouble. So that's something that we definitely can work on together. If you need to, try this. This is an exercise that each of us can try. Write your feelings down on paper. How are you feeling right now? How are you feeling about going through this pandemic, whether it has affected you directly or indirectly? And I will share with you this. Right here in our local community, we have people now that have been affected by this virus. I have family members that I know have been affected by this virus directly. I have some in-laws who I know for a fact right now have been infected up in New York. We know that some people that are connected to us right here at the We Do radio network, someone that we're connected to lost a relative just the other day. So we can't tell people how to feel. People are dealing with this. This is a real situation. It's becoming more real to certain people who may not have taken it as seriously as they should have before. But now that they've been touched, now that they have a relative that may be sick now, or they even lost a relative, now this is something that we have to deal with. We can't just tell people, oh, we can't be fearful. We shouldn't feel this way. We shouldn't feel that way. No, we need to be empathetic to how people feel. So write your feelings down. Write it down on a piece of paper. Look at it and see what you're dealing with. And that way, when you share your feelings, you can really have a better understanding of exactly how you're feeling when you can write it down and look at it on the paper and then talk about it. And leaders, I recommend that you do this as well. You do it first and then share it with your people. But we cannot ignore the anxiety that people feel. This is a stressful time. People are losing their jobs, don't know how they're going to pay their bills. That's serious. That's not something to just shrug off and say, oh, it's all going to be okay. Yeah, we know that in the end, it's going to be all right. But what about right now? We have to deal with that. We can't just ignore it. We can't just say, oh, I know it's going to be okay. No, we have to deal with people's feelings because we are human beings. with human emotions, and this is a trying time that we're going through right now. The next thing, actively define reality. People are amazingly able to deal with reality, even if it has a significant downside. It's the unknown that we have the problem with. When you're facing the unknown, that brings a certain level of stress that for a lot of people is very crippling. It's hard to move forward when you don't know which way to go. It's hard to make decisions when you don't have all of the facts. So being able to define reality, and I just talked about this the other day too, being able to define reality really helps us when it comes to moving forward or figuring out what the next step is when dealing with a crisis such as this. So when you have an accurate big picture, it's easier for you to work within the smaller pictures. It's easy to determine what needs to be done next. For example, we've learned now that at this point, we've had over 1,000 deaths due to the coronavirus. We also know now that we've gone beyond 70,000 cases that we know of where people have been infected by this virus. These are the kinds of numbers that are going to continue to grow. The peak of this thing, we haven't even gotten to that yet. So being able to define the reality of it is sharing that information, looking at these statistics and saying, okay, this is a real thing. This is really happening. This is really beginning to affect people right around me and could possibly hit me. So I know what to do. I know how to practice better hygiene, wash my hands, stay away from crowds, stay in the house if possible, as much as possible. Doing the things that our leaders, our government officials are sharing with us. The experts are telling us what to do, what not to do, listening to them. And we can make those decisions when we actively define the reality that this is real. This is not a myth. This is not a game. It's really happening. It's really going on. But you have to get past the unknown, which is that is the thing that will paralyze most people when we don't know what's going on. So as leaders, it's our job to bring the facts about exactly what's going on, where we are with this, and how we can move forward as a team. The next thing I want to talk about is creating a new starting line for us to work on, to work with. During the crisis, people at all levels of different organizations become fixated on what we lose. We get so focused on all of the things that we can't do, all of the things that we are being prevented from doing. We are being limited from doing this, doing that. Can't go here, can't go there. Some of us had vacations planned that we can't take now. On your job, you might have been expecting a promotion, but now that's been put on hold because you can't even go to work. You might have been expecting a bonus on your job, but now you're not even sure if you have a job. These are the things that we fixate on those, and we kind of, again, we lose sight on some of the opportunities that we do have. So letting go of what could have been is a key for the first step in becoming focused on the successes that we could have in our new environment. And let me be clear about this. We could be looking at some new norms for a long time. And that's being real. That's being a realist, looking at the big picture and understanding exactly what it is that we're dealing with. We may be looking at some new norms that will be here for a long time. I don't believe that we're going to go back to business as usual anytime soon. I could be wrong. I hope I am. But the way things are looking, the trends that I see, I don't think so. So find ways to get those new lines, draw those new lines. What kind of opportunities do I have now with everything that's going on the way they are right now? Can I find some opportunities in those? The next thing, use urgency as an alignment ally. In other words, instead of looking at change as a crisis lurking just around the corner, accelerate your efforts to analyze and act on problems instead of wandering around them. Get right to the crux of the matter. It is an emergency to understand everything that's going on right now and how can we be effective maneuvering through this situation. And it is the job of every leader to point that out. Urgency is a powerful, powerful unifying force. And it is something that we definitely should use to our advantage. If you don't think that what we're going through right now is urgent, wake up. Open up your eyes and your ears and see not only what's going on in our community, what's going on in other communities, other states around the world. This is not a joke. But we can curtail some of the damage that we may cause just by simply taking this crisis as serious as it is. But we have to use urgency as leaders to impress it upon those that are following us how urgent this is so we can work together. The better we come together and get on the same sheet of music and get on one accord, the more successful we can be and the faster we can get rid of this pandemic. Moving right along. Number 5. Establish new check-in routines. Staying in touch with people that may work for you, family members, friends, reaching out to people. You can set a schedule. We have the perfect opportunity right here. This is one of those opportunities that I was just talking about. We have it right now where when we're usually too busy to check on our friends, check on our loved ones and see how they're doing, this is a really good time to do that. Also, people that work for us in our organizations, we can check on them. Not necessarily to just talk about business, but to see how they're doing. See if they're safe. See if they need anything. Let them know that you're thinking about them. You're concerned. You love them. And again, as leaders, people are more likely to follow us when they know, like, and trust us. Here's an opportunity to build on that right here by creating those new check-in routines. Take about 15 to 30 minutes a day and just pick 5, 6, however many people. Just pick a certain number of people that you're going to reach out to that day just to see how they're doing. And this is another way to get quick updates and share information and share some highlights of some critical information. This is the time to do that. And while we're practicing social distancing, this is a way to stay connected. What better time we have than right now than to reach out to that loved one we haven't talked to in a while and say, hey, I was thinking about you. How you doing? Or that friend that we hadn't talked to in a while. What's going on? How you been? How you doing right now? How you feeling? Do you need anything? This is a wonderful time to do that. And we can do that by establishing these new check-in routines while we're going through this crisis, while we're going through this time of limited access to things and people. Use that technology for what it is really meant for. Communication. Moving right along. The next thing we want to do during this time is celebrate all victories, large or small. It doesn't matter. Whatever success we have during this time, we need to highlight it. We need to celebrate it for what it is, because every small victory will add up to the larger victory at the end. Now, don't get me wrong. We can't spend too much time overhyping small gains, but any gain is a good one. Especially during a time like this, we need to celebrate every opportunity that we can. And remember, we're dealing with anxiety. We're dealing with fear. We're trying to maneuver through this situation and come out on the other end in the best possible light. So by celebrating those small victories, that helps us to get one step further. That helps us to keep going, keep moving forward, and not giving up. And it's okay. It's okay to celebrate. We need that. That's an emotional lift that we can use and hold on to in a time where things seem to be becoming grim very quickly. Very quickly. And the more we hear these statistics about people getting sick and people passing away, the more we need to celebrate those small victories. All right, the next one. Scout the possibilities. What do you mean by that, Wayne? Well, I'm glad you asked. I didn't think you were going to ask me that. As leaders, we need to deputize people as opportunity scouts. That means tapping into people that we have around us that we know can have access to information that we might not have access to. They may be in a location away from us, outside of our own location. They may have a better perspective or different perspective on the situation. We can share, swap information. We can help come up with a recovery plan together. And leaders, let me say this. Let me throw this in here. We don't have to be the ones that come up with all of the solutions all the time. Because again, we don't know everything. But what we can do and what we do have access to is the people around us that we can use as resources to help us to make the best possible decision. Use that feedback, use that input from the resources that we have around us so that we can make the right decision. We can make the best decision. We don't have to worry about figuring it all out on our own. We can't anyway. So we need to round up all of our resources that we have and utilize them, work together, understanding that we can't do anything great all on our own. We have to work together. So why not use the people around you, leaders, as scouts of opportunities? They can find opportunities for many different things. But these are ways that we can continue to be engaged. We can continue to move forward. We can help one another. We're still growing in the process. Even in a crisis, you still can grow. Just because you're limited on certain things right now does not mean that you have to stop growing. Just because you can't go get your hair cut, or you can't go to the movies, or you can't go to your favorite place, you can look at it as, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Or you can look at this as, okay, now I have an opportunity to get some projects done that I've been putting off for a long time. It's all about perspective. It's all about your mindset. For you, leader, is the glass half empty or is it half full? That's a question you should ask yourself right now. Is my glass half empty or is it half full? I would like to think that my glass is half full, and I'm always trying to pour more into it. But it's all about mindset. It's all about how you look at things. It's all about what you perceive. Are you looking for opportunities, or are you looking at how bad everything is right now and all of the things that you can't do? Or are you trying to find ways to still keep progressing, keep moving forward, and being that example for the people that are following you? Because in the end, that's what it's really about. Leading by example. Leading by example. All right. Next thing. Communicate the score. What do I mean by that? When we look at what we're going through right now with this pandemic, when we see all of the things that are transpiring, all of the different ways that our lives as we knew it have changed so fast, we need to know what the score is. And when I say score, I'm talking about lives lost. I'm talking about people becoming sick, going down. Right now, we have healthcare professionals that are going down because they're trying to help those that are getting sick. So as people continue to get sick and as our health professionals begin to go down with them, that's something that is of major concern. Number one, we're running out of supplies. Number two, we're working really hard to get the things that we need to help our sick people. And how do we do that? Another thing that we're dealing with right now is the stimulus package. And people are getting excited about the stimulus package. It's a good thing, but is it enough? Is that going to be enough to sustain you over a period of time? I don't know the answer to that. I have my own opinion, but right now I'll keep it to myself. But we still have to know what we're dealing with. What is the score? How can we maintain and sustain ourselves over a long period of time? And you just have to imagine that this thing could probably go on for longer than we think. And if it does, how are we going to survive? These are the things that we need to be thinking about, leaders, so that we know how to act. When you know the score, then you know what you're dealing with. You can put your finger on the reality of the situation and make the right decisions. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. When we come back, we'll do a mind power moment, and we'll also continue on right here on some of the strategies that we can use to be successful in a crisis. We'll be right back. This is Leader Lifestyles. Welcome back to Leader Lifestyles, and now it's time for a mind power moment with Janice Price.
Faith brings victory. Faith in God can move mighty mountains and calm raging seas. I heard it can turn deserts into fountains if you only believe. As we walk this daily journey through the uncertainties of life, faith must be a part of the operations used by the children, husband, and wife. The family as a whole must join together in prayer and seek the face of God. No time to sit and agree with a lazy head nod. It's time to open our mouths up wide and let our voice be heard aloud. No longer a congregational act due to the banding of the crowd. This is personal, and this faith walk is requiring your full attention. He's looking for that personal relationship, I must mention. No time to be super spiritual while producing no power. Righteousness is what's required in this hour. So as we take this crisis serious and move in wisdom and obedience, activate your faith and use your God conscious. Don't lose faith in God to see you through. Please hear me. Faith in God will bring the victory at the end of the story. You have just listened to a Mind Power Moment with Janice Price.
Yes, what a powerful, powerful mind power moment from Miss Janice Price. We really appreciate her for that one. And faith does indeed bring victory. And we have to remember that. We have to remember that as long as we have faith, we have a chance. And as long as we have God on our side, we can't lose. But we have to remember to have faith. And before the break, we were talking about some of the things that we can do, some of the strategies we can use to be successful in a crisis. And before we go over those again, I do want to share some information with you. Over the break, I had the opportunity to look at some of the numbers, and I realized that we are now, the United States is now number one with the highest number of confirmed positive test results for the coronavirus, beating out China and Italy. We now have almost 83,000 confirmed cases, and we are number one now with the highest number of confirmed cases of the coronavirus infections here right in the United States of America. And if you really think about that, China, which is where this virus was suspected to be originated from, they have a population of almost 1.4 billion people. 1.4 billion people. Whereas the United States, we have a little over 320 million people. So if you think about those numbers, that is a staggering statistic. And we are indeed number one with the highest number of cases of the coronavirus right here in our country. And again, if we're not taking this seriously, we really need to look around. We really need to pay attention to what's going on so that we can take the proper steps to protect ourselves, our loved ones, our family members, and the people that follow us. And that's what we're talking about today on this show. We're talking about strategies that we can use to be successful during a crisis. Not just this crisis with the coronavirus, but any crisis. And so some of the things that we talked about earlier, we talked about not ignoring the anxiety that people feel that they go through, being able to actively define reality, what's real, what's really going on. Also creating new starting lines for everybody, new places to begin where things have changed in our lives. Now we find opportunities to start something new and be successful in that. Also, we discussed the urgency, how to use urgency as an ally to be successful. We talked about establishing new check-in routines. Now that we have more time on our hands, maybe we can reach out to loved ones, family members, friends, co-workers, and see how they're doing. Check in, talk to them, see what's going on, see how they're feeling, if they need anything, any new updates, sharing information. We talked about celebrating small victories and large ones. During a crisis, I can't think of anything that would boost morale more than celebrating any victory that takes place. Celebrating those victories can not only boost our morale, but continue to give us hope that we will be okay as we work together and move through this crisis and any crisis that we may encounter. Scouting possibilities, using your resources around you, the people around you that have expertise, that has knowledge, access to information that can help us make quality, sound decisions, and keeping up with the score. What's really going on? Being in the know, understanding where we are in the crisis. Are we moving forward? Are we spinning our wheels? Or are we going backwards? All of those things are important. And when you know what the score is, when you know what's really going on, again, you can make sound decisions. You can make quality decisions that's going to be good for you, your family, your loved ones, the people that follow you, and we can all move through this together. So as leaders, we need to ask ourselves some questions. And I'll ask you right now, and think about these as we go through them. Are you defining reality and creating hope in this unprecedented environmental change that we're going through right now? Are you creating hope? Are you creating hope in a way that you're working in reality, not what you think might be going on or not how you feel about what's going on, but are you operating in true reality? And are you able to provide hope? The next question is, are you helping people to become change agents so that we can continue to be successful even during these trying times? Are you creating change agents? Are you giving people the opportunity to be change agents? Next question. Are you really keeping up with the score so that you can actively engage in improving the situation? These are some of the things that we need to think about as leaders. As we continue to move forward, we need to continue to not only work together, but work in a way that when this is all over, we can be better for it. We can be stronger. We can be better prepared for the next crisis. And I would like to share with you, some of you seasoned leaders, you might remember this character, Winnie the Pooh. He had some very profound words that I came across that I'd like to share with you right now. And he said this: promise me you'll always remember. You're braver than you believe. You're stronger than you seem. And you're smarter than you think. Now, I give that to you today for all of us to remember, no matter what we're going through. And right now is a great opportunity for us to show and prove exactly what I'm talking about. We have to remember that we are brave, we are strong, and we are definitely smart. And we can make it through this as long as we stick together. And I want to share another concept that I think will also help us. And we're talking about really progressing through this crisis and making sure that we're okay and make sure that we're taking care of others. But if we go down, then we become ineffective as leaders. So we have to do things that will help to keep us healthy and keep our minds right, keep our minds strong. And I want to talk to you about embracing an interval training mentality. Sometimes when you go through something, it can seem like you need to sprint through it. Other things, you go through them and it seems like you need to run a marathon. But in situations like this, you might need to adopt the interval training mentality, where sometimes you sprint, sometimes you run at a slower, longer pace, and sometimes you walk, but you're still moving. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. As a leader, you are expected to make decisions, right? You're expected to find solutions to specific problems, and you're good at that. But remember, even during these times where we're limited in so many different ways, we still need to give ourselves deadlines to get things accomplished. And remember, we are working with new limitations. We have different constraints that we might not be used to. But we still need to give ourselves deadlines to get certain tasks done, to make sure we're moving with forward progression. We're striving to be successful. And some things still need to get done with a timeline, right? So make sure you set those timelines for yourself, make them realistic so that you can achieve them, you can attain them, but you also keep yourself going. When you have timelines, you're more likely to keep moving forward. You're more likely to continue to work, because when you don't set timelines, you slow down, you become lethargic. You may even experience atrophy, where your muscles lose density, your muscles lose strength and power, speed. So you have to find things that will continue to motivate you, that will continue to keep you moving forward. And you might even need to teach yourself some new skills. Give yourself timelines to do those things. Now, identify 5 people to check on and do it today. We talked about creating new check-in routines. Here's an opportunity for you to do that. Make a list of 5 people, at least 5 people, and then check on them today. Don't wait till tomorrow. Do it today. And then, with various work tasks and projects on hold being canceled, and what daily and weekly goals and deadlines can you set for yourself? Even if your battle rhythm may have been interrupted, your work schedule may have been interrupted, your normal routine may have been interrupted, but you can still create a new timeline, a new routine, a new way of doing things. But it starts with giving yourself deadlines. Let's not forget that. The next thing is this. Sometimes you need to pause before proceeding. You need to take a break. You cannot afford to reach burnout. This is not the time to reach burnout. So with everything changing in such a fast pace, you have to pace yourself. Who knows where things will be next week? If your first interval was a sprint, maybe the next one needs to be strength training, or maybe the next interval needs to be walking or cooling down, catching your breath. You have to mix it up. You have to pace yourself. You have to make sure that you don't burn yourself out. And some leaders out there, you go, and it's only when your body starts to break down that you take a break. You take a rest. Well, you need to be proactive with that. Because right now, if you overdo it, you could put your body at risk, at more risk than usual. So we definitely have to be careful. We definitely have to make sure that we are pacing ourselves and giving ourselves time to recuperate, giving ourselves time to just decompress, deal with the stress that's on our shoulders right now, get ourselves back together, and then we can continue to lead. But if you go, I promise you this, you're going to give out. So pause before proceeding. And then the next part of this concept is hydrate or perish. And let me explain what I mean. When an actual runner is training, or an athlete is training, or when a soldier is training, or anybody that's doing some real physical exertion, they need to hydrate. They need to stay hydrated. They need to drink plenty of water and replenish the liquids that they lose, right? So when we replenish those liquids, we're replenishing our body of the nutrients that it needs and all of those things, so that we can continue to work, so that we can continue to perform at the highest level. So that's hydrating. There's also a mental hydration period too. You have to do something that will replenish your mind. For example, when you're going, you might need to take a break from that task that you're working on, or that objective that you're trying to reach, and do something different. Maybe read a book, maybe exercise, work out, go for a run. You may need to just sit still, put on some headphones, and just listen to some relaxing music. If you used to teach, you might find it pleasing to teach a class or give a lesson on something. But you have to find something that you like to do that will help you to replenish your mind, get that mental focus back. I remember when I was deployed to Afghanistan, and with all of the fighting and the bombs going off and the firefights and all of those things that went on during the daytime and sometimes at night, for the most part, at night it was very peaceful. It was quiet. And I would often go outside late at night when it was really quiet, and I would just look up at the sky. I thought the sky was very beautiful over there. The sky was very clear. You could see all of the stars and the moon, and it was very peaceful to me. And that was something that I did by myself. I would go outside and just stare at the sky, stare at the stars. And for whatever reason, that calmed me. That calmed my nerves. That gave me a chance to think. I thought about pleasant things. Yeah, I could have focused on all of the things that was going on around me, but I didn't. I focused on my loved ones, my friends and family, some ideas that I had, some dreams and goals that I wanted to strive for, some things that I wanted to do with my life after that time period was over. And that was my time to do that. That was something that I enjoyed doing, and I didn't have to share it with anybody. Also, I used to work out a lot. I still do. I go to the gym. I work out at home. I run and do things that give my body that burst of adrenaline, and I enjoy that. That's my way of decompressing. That's my way of re-energizing, if you can believe that. That's my way of doing mental hydration. And when we don't take the time to do those things, we're only hurting ourselves, and it's only a matter of time before we break down. So before that happens, we have to grab hold of that. We have to take control of that and say, I will control this. When you take on the mentality of interval training, you understand that there are bursts, then you slow down, there are rest periods, you gradually speed back up. And yes, this is a running type of exercise, but I'm talking about exercise for your mind. These are things that you can do to help you with that. Again, the interval training mentality, giving yourself deadlines, pausing before you proceed, and hydrating yourself. Hydrating yourself with something that you enjoy doing that's going to help you to come back down to your calm, come back down to your center. Give yourself a mental break. And these things are necessary before you actually break down. And if you break down, not only do you become ineffective as a leader, but you can physically harm yourself and become more susceptible to this coronavirus that's attacking so many people right now. And I want to leave you with this. These are some things that, again, we all can do when we continue to progress through this crisis or any crisis. We want to maintain a state of positive thinking. So how do you maintain positive thinking? One of the things that we can do is not worry about finding blame. It does us no good to be able to blame this pandemic on anybody, because blaming somebody does not help us find solutions to the problem. It will not help us to stop this pandemic from spreading. So let's not waste time on placing blame. Number 2, at all costs, try to avoid spinning your wheels. Don't think about the same thing for too long. And it kind of goes back to the first thing I said. We don't need to try to blame anybody. We don't need to sit around and try to figure out all these conspiracy theories. That's a big waste of time. Those things are not going to help us through this problem. Those things are not going to help us be successful as we work through these strategies on how to successfully make it through a crisis. So let's not waste our time there. Number 3, irrigate your mind by talking to people who can share a fresh perspective. Isn't it refreshing when you are going through a trying time, a difficult situation, that you can actually talk to somebody that is a positive force? They can bring you a positive perspective. They can help you see the positive and the opportunities, even in a bad situation. Isn't it refreshing to be around somebody like that? As leaders, we're supposed to be those people. We're supposed to be the calm in the storm. In this situation, we're supposed to be the ones that bring that perspective, provide that motivation and inspiration, that give people some hope. Because without hope, there's no reason to keep going, right? So we should be bringing that hope. Train your mind to skim over the problem and focus on following or finding the solutions. Chase the solutions. We're the solution chasers. We find solutions to problems and then we fix those problems. And it's not that we do it on our own, but we use all of our resources around us to help us get the results that we need. That's what we do, leaders. This is what it's all about. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is all of the training that we get, all of the books that we read about. All of those things come down to this right here. Being able to continue motivating people. Yes, this is a crisis, but I can still inspire. Yes, this is a crisis, but I can still mentor. Yes, this is a crisis, but I can still function and do all of the things that I need to do to make myself and my team of people successful. And some things are just out of your control. I know some of us like to have control of everything. We like to have our hands on everything. We like to be able to manipulate everything. But some things are just simply out of your control. And there's nothing you can do about those things. But guess what? Those things you give to God. There's no sense in worrying yourself to death about something you have no control over. That's why we focus on the things that we can control, the situations that we can manipulate, the situations that we can turn into our favor, that the things that we can use and find opportunities to be successful and make our people successful as well. So when we recognize that we are limited, our power is limited. Our strength at some point comes to an end. But when we recognize that we give those things to God, we focus on the things that we can handle, the things that we can control, and we give everything else to God, that's acknowledging in itself that we recognize that God is all powerful. Where our power ends, God picks up the slack. That in itself, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, saints and friends, that in itself is giving God praise. And we say it all the time. We will give praise and we will give thanks in all things, and that we will always bless the Lord and his praise shall continually be in our mouth. Well, this is that time. This is a part of always. This is a bad time, but this is still a part of always. Are you still giving God praise? Are you still lifting up his name? Are you still acknowledging that he has power and control over all, and that our power is limited? Because when we do that, we are giving God the praise. Well, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, saints and friends, that's all I have for you today. I hope I shared something with you that struck a chord, that gave you a glimmer of hope, because we do have hope. And as long as we have faith, and we have faith in God, we can overcome anything. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. Be blessed. Continue to be productive and be a blessing to somebody else. And remember this: be the change that you want to see. You've taken a glimpse into Leader Lifestyles. We'll see you next time. Take care and God bless you.